Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Megan and I love sharing DIY projects and home transformations to help you create a home you love on a budget. Today, I'm walking you through my entryway makeover, how I took this space from outdated and dull to fresh, welcoming, and functional. So let's get into it. So let's talk about where we started. Our entryway had a basic look, nothing terrible, but definitely not the inviting first impression I wanted. It felt outdated, lacked storage, and didn't really reflect our style. I knew with a few budget-friendly updates, I could completely change the vibe of this space. We started by taking up all the old stuff, so we got rid of the carpet that was in this closet. We removed the old heater that was rusted and gross and took up the tile. This was a pretty labor-intensive job. My husband kind of took the reins on this one. We were treated with this lovely cushion floor, I think was the original from the 70s. Getting the tile up was a big job, and then we realized the subfloor was not salvageable, so we had to use the circular saw to break it up into chunks and pull it up because the staples were so thick and deep in there it was hard to pry it up. Thankfully, once that was done, we had a nice flat surface to lay the new vinyl tile click flooring. There used to be bifold doors here, but the previous owner had taken a door and cut it down to fit into the door frame, so I just sanded it all down so that it could be freshened up with a fresh coat of paint. We got a new heater for the entryway as well, and we decided with the vertical shiplap wall it was best to attach the trim, so we used the hole saw to cut a hole for the wires to go through and then put the heater on that. Honestly, it's such a small lightweight heater, we didn't think that there would be an issue with this, so we went that route. We purchased 5 8-foot long shiplap panels and cut them directly in half, so they were 4 feet long each, and we used I think 8 or 9 of them here for this small wall. So this cost us about $60 Canadian to do. It was super easy and very beginner friendly. I don't use any glue because if I ever decide to take this off, I don't want it to be a big job, so I just use my nail gun here to attach the panels. Once I got towards the closet, I did have to use my jigsaw to cut one of these pieces lengthwise for it to fit because I couldn't fit the full piece there, and it wasn't a perfect straight cut, so I just used my sander to sand it down a little bit, and then honestly once I snugged it in there you couldn't even tell, and it looks fine. Our new flooring was not as thick as the subfloor plus the tile, so we did have these odd gaps in some places, but I just cut some wood, filled it in there, used some wood filler, putty, sand, paint, you couldn't even tell. And then I used a piece of quarter round at the bottom of my stairs just to make it all look nice and clean. Just remember, caulking and paint will make you the carpenter you ain't, and honestly I live by that because once you do all the finishing touches you can't even notice these little imperfections. I had these boards that were 3.5 inch by 1/2 inch left over from a board and batten accent wall I did, so I took one of those and put it horizontally above the vertical shiplap as a piece that my hooks will go into. I think it gives the accent wall a nice clean look and a finish that kind of connects them to the wall. I used a Q-tip just to make sure that I got the caulking in those little gaps. Here's the entryway with the trim up, the vertical shiplap, and the flooring done. Really see things starting to come together here. So next up, I wanted to give the closet door a little DIY facelift, and I decided I was going to use reed molding to give it a fluted look. So I purchased these at Home Depot, and then I cut them to length to fit over the door. I laid the door out, I laid all the pieces into place. They kind of click together so you can't see the seams. And then I used my nail gun to attach them all to the door. Now, this door was actually cut down to size to fit into that space. So if I was going to buy a new door, I knew that I would have to do the same. Also, the colonial style door did not match my newer interior doors throughout the rest of my home, so I just felt like this was a good fix. I put a few nails throughout, and then I took wood filler and went over all the nail holes, just rubbed a little bit over them. Once that was dry, I took 220 grit sandpaper and just lightly scuffed any excess off so that when I paint, you won't see any of those marks. A little tip to save on sanding as well too, you can take a damp cloth and actually go over the wood filler with the damp cloth before it dries, and it'll remove majority of the excess for you. So the next part is painting, which really ties everything together and hides all those little imperfections that we have and covered up. So I started by painting my trim, which is Alabaster by Sherwin-Williams, which matches the rest of the trim throughout my home. And then I painted the reed molding door as well as the vertical shiplap Shiitake by Sherwin-Williams, which also matches my interior doors up in my hallway. I always like to use a paintbrush to get into the small grooves and corners and then immediately roll with my roller to eliminate as much of the brush stroke marks as possible. Now, some people would paint the trim along the floor the same color as the trim throughout the rest of the room, and some will paint it the color of the accent wall that they're doing. Now, I am a fan of painting it the color of the accent wall. Same with my doors. If I'm painting my interior doors, I'm also going to paint the trim that's around the doors that color as well too. I just think it fills the space in better, makes things look bigger, and it's one less color on that wall, if that makes sense. So I'm a fan of painting it all the same color. If you're enjoying this makeover so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I share DIY projects, budget-friendly home transformations, and step-by-step guides to help you create a home you love. I too am new to DIY, but I truly believe it all starts with the confidence that you can and will figure it out. So I'm here to help you do that. At first look, this door jamb looks like it's in really rough shape, but honestly, I gave it a really good sand with my sander, and once I went over it with paint, it looks good as new and super smooth. It just needed a couple coats of paint. Now, there was a hole from where the doorknob would latch into, but I filled that with wood filler and putty, gave it a good couple sands, and just painted right over it, and you can't even tell. Because I decided I wasn't going to go with the doorknob on this, I didn't want to drill a hole through the reed molding and potentially damage it or crack it or anything like that. Plus, I thought a door handle, like one that you would put on, a wardrobe closet door, if you will, would look more high-end maybe and better. So that's the route that I went with this one. I did have to use a paintbrush for painting the door just because there were so many little grooves. And then I used my sander at the top just to make sure everything was flat, smooth, and level with the top of the door. Next up, I got these hooks on Amazon and we installed those in this top board. They were super easy to install and we did 4 of them and spaced them out evenly. And then as I mentioned, we're not using a doorknob, so I did order this magnet piece that attaches to the door and installed it here so that the door had something to latch onto when it closes. And then I ordered these fun new frames and prints to hang above the shiplap wall. I got these from Poster Store. It was really fun to pick out the prints. My husband and I chose 2 that were pretty special to us, as one was where we got engaged and one was where we had our honeymoon. So they felt pretty special. These were also a super affordable option, and there was so many prints to choose from, so I recommend checking them out. But here they are. This one's Amalfi Coast, and this one was Santorini Island in Greece. And that's the fun part about decorating your home, is you get to make it special and unique to yourself. And here's the final look. It's so much brighter, more functional, and finally feels like us. I love how it turned out, and it just goes to show that even small changes can have such a big impact. I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments which part of this makeover is your favorite, and if you're tackling an entryway refresh, tag me in the photos. I'd love to see your projects. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more DIY and home decor inspiration. My next project is tackling this front door.